So we are starting a new module right now. This is module 6, and I'm going to go through lessons 1, 2, and 3 so that you can use this throughout the week if you're on Zearn and maybe you're having trouble or you just need a little extra help. So the first lesson, lesson 1, we're going to be talking about something called data. And data means information. So we're going to take some information and then we're going to put it in a chart. After we put it in a chart, we are going to graph that information. So I will show you how to graph that information. So what I did was earlier this year, I went into my class and I took a survey from the students last year of their favorite colors. And this is what they came up with. So here I have a chart where I am recording all my information. So the colors we chose for the graph are green, yellow, red, blue, and orange. So what I did was I labeled this color and the tally. So a tally is basically just taking a marker or a crayon or a pencil and making slashes. So here for green there was 4 slashes, there's 2 slashes, 6 slashes, and this looks a little bit different because you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4. And then to make 5, I just put a line across it like that. And 1 more to give me 6. And then for 7, I did 7 slashes. And for orange, we had 3. So if a question asks you to find the total, you could take your finger and count every single line until you got to 22. Or you could take the tallies and write down how many there are in number form, and then just add them all together until you get 22. Now I'm going to show you how to graph that information in a graph. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to graph this in a different way. So first of all, you want to make sure that when you're making this graph that you have a title. So the title of my graph is called Favorite Colors. Here, I put the title just as a little extra boost. So then what I'm going to do is I have all my colors written out: green, yellow, red, blue, and orange. I'm also going to make something called a key. This key down here tells me what I'm putting in the graph and how many I'm putting in the graph. So let's start with some hearts. And in this key it says each heart represents 1 student. So what I did was I have on a post-it note my numbers for each color. So I'm going to take my marker and I'm going to write the amount of hearts for each number under each color. So for green, I know that there's 4. 4 students liked green. So I'm going to start from the bottom up with green, and I'm going to make 4 hearts. 1, 2, 3, 4. I want to make sure that I follow my key, that each heart represents 1 student. For yellow, there's 2. So 2 hearts. Red, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Blue, there's 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And so you can notice I have groups of 5 here. So once I reach 5, I'm going to just move on to the next and start from the bottom up. And 3. 1, 2, 3. So here is another graph or another way to represent my information. Now, if the key changes and maybe I want an easier way to represent the data without drawing as many hearts or whatever your symbol is, let's say we change this to 2 students. So each heart represents 2 students. I'm going to erase my data, and then I'm going to draw it so that each heart represents 2 students. So I know that there's 4 students for green. So I have to make how many hearts? 2. For yellow, there's 2 students, and if each heart represents 2, I just have to draw 1 heart. For red, there's 6, so I would have to make what? 3 hearts. For blue, there's 7. How am I going to do that? Well, I could draw half of a heart, so I know that I would need to draw 3 hearts. 1, 2, 3. And here I'll draw a half of a heart to represent 1/2. And for the last one, there's 3. So I'll draw 1 and a half of a heart. It's not a broken heart, just half of a heart. Okay. So that is how you would graph information in a different way. This is lesson 2 of module 6, and today our objective is to rotate tape diagrams vertically. Now I know a tape diagram is usually horizontal. That means from left to right, kind of like how this Sharpie is. We're actually going to take the tape diagram and rotate it so that it is vertical, which means up and down. Okay, so that's what we're doing today. Now, some vocab to think about, something that was new is called the unit size. So we're going to do a word problem, and I'm going to show you what unit size is and what it means. You'll get the hang of it real quick. So let's take a look. Molly played in 3 basketball games. She scored 12 points in game 1, 8 points in game 2, and 16 points in game 3. Each basket was worth 2 points. Use a tape diagram with a unit size of 2 to represent the points scored in each game. How many total units of 2 does it take to represent the points she scored in 3 games? So this unit size, it kind of a little bit reminds me of that key that we did on Monday. So that's taking the units, taking pieces of it, and breaking them up, in each piece is going to represent 2. So that's the unit size, and then you're counting how many there are of those units. So let me show you what that looks like. So here, for game 1, there are 6 units because there are 6 groups of 2. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. And 6 times 2, or if you were to count these 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, gives you 12 points. So she scored 12 points in the first game, and we know that. But we know that there's 6 units. Then for game 2, she scored 8 points, so there's 2, 4, 6, 8. 2 times 4 gives me 8. And then for game 3, she scored 16 points, so there's 8 units. I broke this into 8 different sections of 2. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 to give us 16 points. So to answer that question, total units of 2. So the total units of 2 is taking the number of units or the number of spaces or blocks or whatever and you add them all together. So 6 plus 4 plus 8 gives me 18. So it will take 18 total units of 2 to represent the points scored in all 3 games. Now, we have to follow our objective here. We have to rotate vertically. So I'm going to take my paper and go, okay, and then look at that, just like that. That was a magic trick. That was pretty bad. But it's going to look something like this. So if you were to just take it and rotate it, it's kind of starting to look like a graph. So I put at the top the points that Molly scored. Game 1, Game 2, Game 3. And I just have them here so that you can kind of see in an easier way which one has more, which one has less. It's a little bit easier to look at. And then what I did was I took the number of the units here. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 units times 2, and like I said before, 6 times 2 is 12. 4 times 2 is 8, and 8 times 2 is 16. Now to find the total amount of points, I just took the total amount of points and I added them together. So 12 plus 8 plus 16 equals 36. So that's a couple of tips on lesson 2. Okay, so for lesson 3 today, in module 6, we are going to create a scaled bar graph. So I'm going to take some data and then I'm going to graph it here on a bar graph. It kind of reminds me of the tape diagram that we turned vertically, but this time there's going to be a little bit more information and a couple of new things we're going to add. So we're going to talk about some fish in a pet store. So off to the side here, I have some data that I just quickly wrote down. So the bottom here represents the fish tanks, and this side here represents the number of fish in the tank. The top, I have the title, which is the number of fish in a pet store. So this is for each tank, how many fish are in those tanks, okay? So we have to take, let's see, a good color. We'll take our marker here, and we are going to first make sure that we have everything labeled. So, title, good, how many fish, and the tank. Now over here on the side, I labeled this by 10. So we're going to count by 10. So starting with 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. So for A, there are 15 fish in tank A. So I'm going to go down here to where I have tank A. I'm going to shade in 1, 5, 10, 15. Okay, that's how many are in tank A. Tank B, there's 30. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. For C, there are 25. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. For D, I have 10, 5, 10. And for fish tank E, there's 20. 5, 10, 15, 20. So keeping in mind the things that I've labeled. Now, when you look at these graphs, the information is a little bit easier to see because now I can tell right away which tank has more fish without even counting. Just looking to see which one has the higher amount of fish in it. So this is another way, this is a bar graph. So this is how we have created a bar graph.